Hello and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynn Testoni. I'm a journalist and content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we bring you all kinds of tips, tricks and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business. I just want to give a shout out to Rounded, our sponsor, because tax time's coming up. And that used to be really stressful for me, Rach. I don't know about you, but I love Rounded because everything is there for me, including invoices and expenses. And my accountant can log into the program remotely, use all my financial history to give me advice before lodgement, and then lodge the return when needed.
And best of all, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can save 20% on any annual Rounded plan.
Well, it's still all about the summit lately, isn't it? So exciting, but so much work.
If you're itching to find out more about the speakers at the moment, we are dropping blog posts every week with a Q&A with a new speaker. So there's a new one coming up this week. And there was one last week, Carrie Hutchison. So You can head to thecontentbitesummit.com.au to check that out. But otherwise, good. Ticket sales are ticking along and it is very exciting. But what is also exciting is our guest this week.
We've got another fantastic guest on the pod this week talking about pitching to print magazines. And we've talked a lot about digital lately, and it's really nice to sort of talk about print because I know a lot of our listeners dream about a byline in a glossy mag. And so she's just the one to share how it can be done. And her name is Hannah James. Are you happy to introduce Hannah?
Yep, let's go. Here's a little bit more about Hannah. Hannah James is a journalist and editor for print magazines and online, focusing on women's lifestyle, science, nature, travel, books and culture. She's currently the deputy editor at Country Style magazine, and she was previously the features director at Elle Australia. She's also freelanced at Australian Geographic, Grazia, the State Library of New South Wales magazine Open Book, nine.com.au and Nine's lifestyle site, Nine Honey. She's created marketing content and copywriting for clients including Guardian Labs, the Wilderness Society, Bush Heritage Australia, STEM Matters, the University of Sydney and the Royal Institution of Australia. Wow, Hannah, oh my goodness. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here.
How long have you been working in magazines? It sounds like quite a while.
Yeah, so it's been about 21 years now,
Wow.
Which is so crazy. And I guess it's changed a lot. I started out in the UK. Obviously, you can still tell from my accent. So I started out on a homes magazine, so it feels a little bit like coming home to be on Country Style. I started out on a homes magazine that still exists, actually. It was called Period Living in Traditional Homes, still out there. Very, very beautiful.
My next door neighbours buy that.
Oh, do they?
But also when the magazine you started out on, it's nice that it still exists because it's so rare to say that, isn't it? I don't think the mags I started out.
Hardly any of mine
Yeah.
have started, like Dolly and Cleo and Vogue Entertaining have all gone. And there's some of the early things I worked on. Yeah.
Oh, it is so sad, isn't it? There's definitely the graveyard of titles which were so beautiful and so loved and just sadly don't exist anymore.
Yeah. What other changes have you seen in that time?
I would say mostly it's staffing levels, of course, So I worked on the launch of Grazia magazine in the UK, and it was amazing. And there were 6 sub-editors.
Gosh, 6.
Yeah. And that was a weekly, so, you did need quite a lot of people, but, there was picture editors and all sorts, so, and budgets, of course. Like, I don't think I was particularly privy to budgets on Grazia, but I was on my first job because I was doing finance stuff as the editorial coordinator. So budgets are not what they were, but we're still lucky. People still value print, like you say. Freelancers still value print and readers still value print. So even with all the I don't know, I think there's a lot of sad changes, but people still do value that print experience. And I think there's sort of something really validating about being in, when subjects and people who are written about or appear in the magazines, they really value that, so that's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I still subscribe to heaps of magazines, so there is something about that tactile experience that will never go away for many of us, so that's true.
Yes, exactly.
Mm.
I've got 3 on my coffee table right this minute. So there you are.
We're single-handedly propping up the magazine industry.
Exactly. Because you're freelanced as well. Tell us a bit about that. Was that when you moved to Australia, or was it?
Yeah.
What do you like about freelancing versus in-house, and vice versa? You know, what's the good and bad about each of them?
Well, I think definitely being in charge of your own hours and your own holidays. Like, I would go back to the UK for like 3 weeks and I never had to ask anyone, and that was so nice. You never have to worry about other people's school holidays or whatever. It was brilliant. And also, I think it took me quite a long time to figure this out, because it just didn't gotten on very quickly. But you can really pursue your own interests. Like, I've done freelance work for the Wilderness Society and Bush Heritage, and that was just me going, I love nature and I love conservation, and I know that organisations are really do value storytelling now. They understand that it's really important to connect with people, whether that's readers or donors or people, customers, whatever. They understand the value of storytelling. So if you contact them and say, I can do storytelling, I can interview people and make something fun and interesting, you can just cold contact people and say that. And neither of those two came up with work immediately, but over a period of time, they were like, oh yeah, we need this, we need that. And I just started collecting work for them. So and with the State Library of New South Wales magazine as well, that was really fun. I was just, because I like libraries, so I was like, oh
yes,
there's this magazine that's about a library, that's a pretty cool library, awesome. So I ended up doing some really fun stuff for them and going behind the scenes in the conservation lab and all of that. So that is fun, just to be able to follow your interests and make money out of it.
Yeah.
Which is great. But then the money, for me, like, I think other people are better at this than I am, I'm sure, but I always found it hard to get in a rhythm with getting money sort of dropping in regularly. So that was tough. Yeah. So that's obviously the nice thing about in-house, but it just magically falls into the account. And I love as well having that brand. People do connect, particularly with Country Style. People are like, oh, you work for Country Style. So people know what it is and kind of respect it a bit. And you can do something really valuable for them, actually. If you are talking about somebody's business or something in the magazine, that has tangible benefits for them. And that's actually really beautiful, to have a platform that people respect and that you can kind of help people along a little bit. That's amazing.
Country Style has always had a really strong following and a really loyal audience. It was actually quite, from my time in magazines, and I've done some pieces for Country Style, but I think it's quite different from other magazines. Is that true? Yeah,
we're really lucky. In some ways we all work really hard, but in some ways it bobs along by itself, because it is buoyed up by that really loyal readership. So people do come to us with story ideas. People do approach us because they value the magazine. So we're so lucky. And particularly as well, so I joined Country Style when Elle closed during the pandemic. So I started at Country Style in August 2020, and we saw a real, nobody, it was awful. Nobody disputes that, but people were moving to the country, right, because of remote working. So Country Style in particular saw a bit of a bump, a bit of a boost, that people were being able to work remotely, move to the country as they had always dreamed of, and started buying magazines. So that actually was one small but wonderful part for us.
I want to talk about Country Style in a minute, but I also wanted to go back to what you mentioned about, which was quite interesting, about the cold outreach that you did as a freelancer. How did you do that? And you said that it didn't immediately bear fruit for you, but were you just sort of reaching out to the editors or the content departments of those brands and then following up consistently, or was it like a one-time thing and then you got on their radar?
It was definitely more than once. I think I went through LinkedIn actually to find the relevant people, or you can just, I think older people are better at this, younger people struggle a bit more, and I don't find it particularly easy, but you do it when you have to. You just get on the phone and you call up the general number and say, hi, I'm a freelance journalist. Who would be the right person? Have you got like a content editor? Have you got somebody who deals with all of that stuff? Do you have a magazine? Do you just do some research, and you tend to find the right person eventually. People, and sometimes they don't use freelancers, and that's a bit of a bust. I've never had that they come back to you immediately and say, great, thanks very much, here's a commission.
Yeah.
They never do that, or I've never had it, but they do eventually. And I don't think I pushed that hard, to be honest. I think it was a couple of emails, not trying to be annoying, but just saying, hey, still here, still writing, still freelancing, here's something I wrote that you might find that is sort of relevant to you and your subject matter and your style.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it can be quite a simple process, but as freelancers, we can really overthink that and think, I don't know my way into that, or I don't know how to reach that person, but it can actually be quite a simple process.
Yeah, I definitely had like a mental block about it until I just realized that it wasn't that difficult. Honestly. It's fine, it's easy, and people aren't annoyed. Like, no one's going to be annoyed with you for doing that, because you're saying, if you have a problem, here I am, I can help solve it.
Well, now you're kind of on the other side of the fence at Country Style. So how do you use freelancers, and do you have regulars, or are you open to new writers?
Yeah, we definitely have regulars, and that's so great from my point of view, because you just sort of, set them going and give them a deadline and forget about it until it comes due, which is perfect for us, because we're, obviously, as mentioned with staffing levels, everyone's doing sort of what used to be about 3 people's jobs. So, anything that's easy is good, but we definitely are open to freelancers. We definitely do use freelancers. We definitely want to hear from freelancers. I personally am also not great at getting back to people, so sorry in advance if I'm terrible at getting back to people, but we do.
And people should be following up with you.
And that's just speaking for me. I know that's not everybody wants to be emailed repeatedly, but I am fine with it.
That is interesting. That's a common criticism we get from freelancers, is that editors never get back to them. And I guess it's that following up thing, because you sometimes feel you might be pushing if you do that.
Oh gosh, I know it's hard, and I think that partly it is the staffing thing, that we are all just really busy. Partly it is that we get a couple of hundred emails a day, and that's that sounds crazy, but it's true. And you just can't, honestly, that would be your full-time job if you were just properly reading and responding to all of your emails. That would be a full-time job. So there is just a degree of, you just have to let some things just slide past. And sometimes if you've got enough, like we only have so many slots per issue, sometimes you just have to let the stream flow past you and scoop out the fishes that you really, really need, the urgent things, And also, I think with pitches, you're actually asking, we need them, of course, we need story ideas and people to write them, but you're asking a lot. You're not only asking for money, but certainly for us, you're probably asking for us to send a photographer out to shoot whatever the story is that you're pitching, so that's even more money. You're asking us to consider not only the subject, whether it works for us. We then have to go away and think about all these things that I think freelancers can't know. This is just an in-house thing that, you can't know all of this stuff. But, this is what I've learned since I've been here. There's all these things, have we done it before? Country Style's been going for about 35 years. So chances are we've done it before. And unless something's, radically changed, possibly we wouldn't cover that story again. Is somebody else in the stable, in the R Media stable, doing something similar? Is something else coming up? Have we got something similar coming up? Have we actually got exactly the same idea that we've already commissioned and is already coming up? Is there, are there advertiser considerations? Is there clashing? Is there, there's just so many decisions that we, is a competitor about to do a similar story, or have they just done a similar story? There's so many considerations that we have to think of, and you can't know that, but just to know that it's never just almost never just a yes or no, and I get that it feels like, oh, how hard would it be just to type thanks but no thanks? Come on, it just isn't that simple most of the time, unless it's definitely a no. It is just a bit harder that, and then we have to figure out whether we think that writer, if that writer's new to us, if they'll be the right person to write it anyway, if we can trust them to just go away and do it. So there's a lot going on, and sometimes if we've got a full slate for the next few months, it just, it drops off the bottom of their inbox. And I know that's rude. It's terrible. I fully accept that it's rude. I saw on Twitter or something, some meme that was like, it was said much more cleverly than this, of course. I'm going to mangle it. But it was like, I'm sorry that I never replied to your email, but just rest assured that, the guilt of that is weighing on my mind every waking moment. And that's what you really wanted, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, I'm terribly guilty. I'm terribly, terribly guilty. I wake up in the night thinking about all the emails I haven't responded to. But truly, that would be my whole life if I just did that. So, I mean, it is rude. And I hate it when I'm on the other end of that, shouting into the void, because, of course, you as the freelancer have put time, which is money, of course, into making that pitch and crafting that pitch. So it is terrible. But
so what does it take to get a pitch over the line?
So a lot of it is just being really clear about what the story is that you're pitching. So for me, again, this is personal, but for me, I like pitch in the subject line, because sometimes I will just do a search of my inbox that is like, what pitches have I not responded to recently? And if they don't have pitch in the subject line, that search won't come up with your email. I do try to do that. And then also getting to know the magazine. So digital and print do not reflect each other exactly. So the only way that you'll know exactly what slots, we have regular slots, and they all have different requirements. So you'll get to know that if you just read a few issues of the magazine. Like there's a homegrown story up front, which is just a single page and a small image. And that's, one particular type of person or business that we would cover. And then there's women on the land slot, which is 2 pages, and then there's people slots, and then there's homes slots, and then there's regional shopping slots, and those are all pretty much in almost all of the issues. So if you know what slot you're pitching for, that's super helpful to me, because honestly, anything that you can do just to take a bit of that, I said all those considerations that we have to think about, if you can just drop a few of those out, just tick them off, tick those boxes for me already, have a bit of a ready-made meal for me, that's easier, isn't it? So that gives you a bit more of a chance of getting through. And also, I think like any industry, it is about contacts and building relationships and stuff. If you're coming cold, it can be harder. If you're out there and you are on social media and contacting, just building that relationship a little bit. If we already know, even if we haven't commissioned you before, if we already know that, you do this sort of thing, we can trust you, you have similar things in the can already, all of that. It's just easier for us to say yes. It's just like, make it easy, and the chances are it'll be a yes.
So basically, mistakes that you see freelancers making would be they clearly haven't read the mag, or they're pitching something that you've just done, so they haven't read it recently, that sort of thing. Anything else?
I mean, I wouldn't, it's really hard to keep across all the titles, so I certainly wouldn't dismiss somebody for that, but I would, obviously we wouldn't do it again. I think it's hard if you're a writer and you're pitching a story, it's hard to remember imagery, so of course, chances are we would have to send a photographer. So if you can send like either a link to the person, if you're pitching a person, their socials or their website or something, so that we can just sort of get an idea, because we never obviously publish a story without at least one image. So there has to be something worth it picturing, and that is hard for a writer to remember, but that's true. Timing, print magazines are still a 3-month lead time, so if it's a time sensitive story, people do forget that as well, because I think digital is so much more immediate, and most people work across both, but I personally at the moment don't work across both exactly. And just being clear about what your story is. Are you pitching a person? Tell me their name, tell me where they're based, tell me what their profession is, tell me why it's worth covering in country style, why is it suited to country style, what sort of story is it? And then maybe, down the bottom a little bit about you and a link to your portfolio, or attach a couple of similar stories you've done, that kind of thing, just really helps. And I think all of that is probably, anybody listening to this podcast already knows that and already does that, but I guess it's worth a refresher.
Yeah.
Well, I do think it's interesting how many people have just got a good story that is not right for you. I know that because I've worked country style, and surprising how many people pitch things that aren't in the country.
Well, clues in the name there. Yeah.
But they might have sort of a country style, but the house is in Bondi or something,
like a city renovation.
Yeah.
That's it. It is surprising.
A country aesthetic, but not actually in the country, because that is sort of like a given, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and there are, occasionally we do things that are kind of suburban, but truly, I mean, if you want your pitch to have more of a chance, it will be more of a country.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we were talking off air about how, a little bit about upskilling, but you call it something else. What do you call it, and what is your staff sort of doing at the moment to get new skills?
Yeah, so they're calling it cross-skilling, which, to kind of emphasize that neither is superior to the other. So print staff are learning digital skills at the moment, which is great. It's really positive and it's exciting because, as I said, certainly, I mean, different brands are all different, but I don't think the country style brand is entirely consistent currently. And obviously management know that, so they're working to remedy it. So that's really good. So we're all kind of going to be working across, and some of us do. I post a few social posts and stuff at the moment. I don't currently do any digital stories, but I think it's going to change. I am going to be doing some of that. So, deputy editors across the Homes titles particularly are going to be doing that. So, the idea is greater cohesion, greater, more consistent brand identity, which is kind of obvious, but it's good that we're getting there.
Yeah.
It's been a constant criticism of some of the print magazines that they're not necessarily cohesive with their digital, or the digital presence doesn't reflect, and there's not a lot of cohesion because they're separate teams, aren't they?
Yeah, they are still separate teams, but are, already less so. And that process is just going to keep continuing. We are getting closer and closer, and we do talk across teams all the time. And that's only going to get better, I think. And it seems crazy that it's taken this long, but there we go. At least we're doing it now.
Well, I think it's come up and down. I know when I was at Inside Out years ago that we used to commission a digital version of the story when we did a print story, but that sort of changed and different, so that doesn't happen as much anymore, does it?
No, that is in-house though. We do have that sort of digital team. So we have a couple of people on our digital team that work across actually Inside Out and Country Style. So, of course, people do work across multiple brands. But they sort of write the digital versions of our print stories. So that's how that works at the moment. But things are in flux, and I'm not fully, across how
everything.
things are going to be. But it is all changing, and it's exciting. It's really fun. It's good to know that we are going to be a bit more comprehensible to the reader, right? We've got to be, can't just be the print product these days. It does have to be a really strong digital offering as well, and they have to reflect each other.
Yeah, so Rachel and I both worked in magazines, but a few years ago. So I'd love to hear about what an average week is like now, because I'm sure it's changed since we were both on staff.
Well, as the deputy editor, I support my editor Kylie on, basically, I'm kind of really nitty-gritty of the editorial planning. So she's, sort of more high level and more commercial responsibilities as well as the editorial, and I'm really, elbow deep in the editorial. So I help her with planning, commissioning and producing every single issue. So every week kind of varies a bit because we're on a monthly production schedule. So this week we were on deadline, so I'm doing final reads of layout, the whole magazine, and then we'll be proofreading PDFs, and then we do the die lines. So which is like the final chance to catch any howlers. Hopefully there aren't any. There aren't usually, but you never know. So that's this week, and then also obviously we'll be swinging straight into the next one. So that's the June issue. We'll be swinging straight into July, so that's something on my to-do list for today, that I have to check where we're at with all the July copy and images. So we'll do a bit of production in that kind of way as well, just making sure where is everything? Is it coming in? Did I remember to commission everything? If I didn't, who am I going to get to do it? All of that stuff. There's always a few last minute disasters, seems to me. And then there's also just a lot of general corporate stuff, like we're all adopting this project management tool called Monday.com, which I'm kind of helping. I've already been using it for a while to help plan our issues and communicate. So I'm kind of helping the editorial team. once we've done deadline, once that hurdle has been surmounted, I'll be helping with the training session to help people kind of get into how we're going to be using that. So that's that kind of, software tool stuff, which is useful. I think there's a diversity and equity committee meeting that I'm on this week. So just that kind of general corporate stuff. We're always talking to advertising, we're always talking to marketing, we're always talking to digital. So, it's actually a lot of pieces to it. And I do a lot of finance, trying to get people paid, commissioning, all that stuff. So there's a lot to it, which is really fun. I like that. I like that there's lots of different bits to it. It's fun. It's interesting.
It sounds like you're very much boots on the ground, but I thought there was more of a hybrid working arrangement these days. Are you sort of in and out a little bit and at home a bit?
Yeah, definitely. And that is such a joy. I just love that. It makes everything so much different. Like, I kind of rolled out of bed at 8:15 this morning and was at work by 9 because my office is 4 steps away. So that's really nice. So working from home is lovely. So I personally I think they're sort of encouraging about 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, but you can kind of, there's flex around that. If you've got a lot of interviews or a lot of writing, you can stay home or go wherever is useful to do that. And of course, I think still, even with all the amazing tools that we have at our disposal now, I do think communication is still a bit easier in the office face to face, but we have a lot of that. So it's good we have the best of both worlds.
Oh, that's great.
It's really
changed
great.
the way you ran the magazine, having that sort of hybrid?
Not really, in that I think we always were, emailing and calling and texting a lot anyway. So I don't think it's that much different. And of course, we all use, Content Station, which is all, everything's on the server or on that tool. So that isn't radically different, to be honest. It just feels a lot easier and more fluid and more flexible. So if it's changed it for good, I would say.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about is about brand extensions, because Country Style has always been big on that for years. Things like, I think there's a linen collection, there's some books, and I could be wrong, but there was fashion. And I know that you do what are called in the industry as one shots, like, I think there's one out this week or something, things like Country House Gardens or whatever. So how do you put those together? Is it the same staff? Do you think it boost sales, or how does that work?
So we do one shots. We do about 3 one shots a year. So the one at the moment is called Dream Stays. It's lovely because it's about, like, it's really hard to find nice Airbnbs when you want them or somewhere nice to stay. So we're just kind of pulling out a few beautiful stays that we've had. So those are really useful, valuable parts of the brand extension. We're not focusing so much. We do books. I think we're doing 1 book this year. We did 2 last year, but we're not focusing so much. I mean, goodness, I'm not privy to all the plans that are going on. But as far as I know, we're not going to focus so much on physical products other than the books and the one shots at the moment. But my editor's actually really amazing because she mostly takes on the content planning for those, and so I mostly focus on the issues. So that is great for me, hard for her. So but we do tend to bring in people to help with that, just a little bit of extra freelance help for that, which is, thank goodness. Sometimes when the deadlines fall at the same time, because I do proofread the whole thing towards the end, because I've been chief sub in my meanderings around the industry, so I do still like to do a lot of final reads and things to keep that skill up. And when sometimes there's a deadline for like a book and the regular issue at the same time, and that can be a bit of a strain, but it doesn't always happen.
That sounds like something I want to get my hands on. What is it? The luxury country stays?
Yeah, Dream Stays. It's out
Dream
at the moment.
Stays.
Yeah, I need that in my life.
It's really lovely.
Rachel does love a stay away, stay away, don't you?
I was just staying at the Harbourside Apartments on Cockatoo Island.
Lovely.
And have you seen those, Hannah?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. absolutely beautiful. Like I was so shocked when I walked in and saw how they'd been styled, and it's just stunning. Yeah.
It's really good, isn't it? Places are really understanding. I think it's the whole Instagram thing that they're understanding that it's really important to have that styling kind of on point, which is great.
And just to be surrounded by beauty for 3 days, and then you go back to the mess and the dishes and all of that. Yeah.
Sounds lovely. Dream stay indeed.
Yes. Yes, I'll definitely get my hands on those. Yeah. So we've talked about social media. You're doing a little bit of social media, but how will that work? Will you sort of do your social posts and then give them to someone to post, or do you all have access to the platforms? Yeah.
We all have access to the platforms now, and again, that's relatively recent. So, you know, that's just part of this whole our media push towards that integration between print and digital. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
What platforms are you using?
So that's Sprout Social that we use for scheduling. Instagram in particular, I mainly do Instagram. I think there's sort of different requirements for Facebook that I'm not so much across, but Insta I'm pretty comfortable with. And just the way it's kind of working at the moment is that I am doing the posts that boost the mag, you know, that kind of push people towards, you know, click the link in bio to subscribe, that kind of thing, because obviously I'm super across what content is in the mag. But, you know, read more in the mag, which is out at the moment. And then the digital team, the amazing hardworking digital team, are doing the ones that kind of push towards the website. But obviously, you know, that is all shifting. That ground is all shifting at the moment, and I'm not fully across how that's, you know, the end point of how that's going to be. But I just know that we're, certainly me as the deputy, I'm definitely getting more and more and more into the digital side. So good for me. Good skills.
I think it's great when you have so many people sort of populating the feed, because it's always fresh and it's not one of you just kind of freaking out and going, what am I going to post this morning?
That is good, because you guys post a lot, don't you?
It's interesting as well. Like, you can't post too much because that dents the engagement a bit, which I've just discovered. It's all new, and it's all changing, of course, as well, all the time. They do their little algorithm tweaks, and we have to respond. It's interesting. It is all changing, and that is actually, I will say, one good thing about being in-house, that you have all that access to all that data and knowledge, and you're kind of you get trained for free, you know, learn to use all this stuff. So that's actually proving quite useful at the moment for me.
Absolutely. We talked to a few people at News about that, didn't we, Lynn? About the training on all the metrics and data, and how things can be changed, you know, especially in digital. If something's not working, they can tweak it immediately and then watch how it's, you know, how the traffic's going. It's fascinating, isn't it? How that's,
and what a luxury is that as well, to get that data. You know, that's why it's so important to be so hot on both. Obviously, print is always wonderful, but you don't know how far people read in the story, and you know whether they engaged immediately with that headline, which obviously you do on digital, which is just phenomenal.
Absolutely.
And you can change it if you've made a mistake. I know,
the
luxury.
That's the best thing about it, isn't it?
Great.
So I'd love to talk to you about one of those tricky things about rates. So, because do you pay word rates or project rates, and have they changed, or are they, you know, are they still the same that they were years ago?
Oh, well, probably. Sorry. Probably they are.
That's good to know.
I think they're pretty reasonable. They're definitely certainly better than I've been paid for online stories, you know. And it does, we technically have a word rate, but honestly, we tend to end up doing a project rate, depending on how involved the story is, and whether we're asking people to source images or not. I mean, that's not so common, but it does sometimes happen, like for that My Country Childhood story.
It's nice that you pay for that.
That sort of thing. That's the reason for the project rate, essentially. If that's something.
Because the My Country Childhood story, that's a project rate, because there is quite a bit of sourcing of people's childhoods.
Exactly.
And
that's not so easy, so we factor that in. So for those sorts of stories, it's actually reasonable. I think it's hard because I think you're probably never going to get your full, you know, wage out of print mags these days. But I mean, even less so with online, I would say. you know. So it's certainly on the better end for what I've earned. I'll say that.
Yeah, no, I think so. I do feel, I mean, one of the things I to be positive about it, while print mags do tend to pay on the more reasonable side. The other thing is I find that my corporate clients, you were talking about the glossy part of the magazines, that my corporate clients really love that I work for glossy print magazines.
Yeah.
And I think I command a higher rate for my corporate projects because of that profile.
Yeah.
Do you find that?
Definitely. It's still validating. People do find some sort of, you know, I don't know if we're still sort of seen as a bit of a gatekeeper, but, you know, I think because it is so easy, there is such a low barrier to entry for digital publishing. And of course, it depends how media literate people are, you know, they don't understand that putting something on your own Instagram is a bit different from having it appear on, you know, the Design Files, you know, which is a beautiful website, or, you know, whatever. That it's great. So, you know, that still has a lot of cachet, but people still are like, oh, well, you know, it's just on my computer screen, whereas if something's on paper, you know, it's really real.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you mentioned that you and the team are sort of getting to grips with Monday at the moment, and we love to ask our readers about their favorite, you know, tech programs or things that they'd be lost without. So what are yours?
That I am loving. It is so great. And I do think, I really, who would have thought? This is life in your 40s, that you actually get really passionate about project management.
We're so nerdy.
I'm so nerdy.
Yeah, I love it.
Who would have thought? I'm such an evangelist. That's why they were like, oh, Hannah, you need to be the one to, you know, help train people, because
to spearhead the Monday trend.
Yeah, you're weirdly obsessed with this thing, and I'm like, yes, I am. I'm owning it. I love it. It's great. You know, just even as well, you know, talking about the crazy inbox, you know, to transfer any communication between teams from the email inbox into a separate tool. Oh, I'm all for it. And I think sometimes you are asked as a freelancer to collaborate on those things. So I think that's a useful thing. And I know there's tons of them, Trello and all sorts. So I find them really useful within teams. And I think it's really good even just as a fancy sort of to-do list. Even, you know, I think there's free versions if you're just using it for yourself. And it's great to put status and where I'm at and all of that, you know, and if your spreadsheet or whatever is working for you, that's fine. But I love the kind of the color coding and the, you know, there's automations you can do on Monday. So you're like, if status changes, then, you know, send this person an email or change it to this or whatever, you know, all these sort of little automations that you can set up. So I'm super geeking out about those. I love them. But also I think AI transcription has just leapt ahead light years, even within the last couple of years, I would say. So I use something called Descript, just because a friend recommended it. I think it's actually a bit overkill for what I need it for, because I only really need it for AI transcribing, but it's so great. I know people use Opta and, you know, other things as well. And that you used to basically have to go through it and do it again. But that's not the case at all anymore. It's brilliant. It's really good, I find. So if you're not on the AI transcription bandwagon, I would definitely jump on it, because it saves so much time. And then I think I was thinking about 3, and I was like, yes, definitely Monday. I should definitely say AI transcription, and I should definitely say just all it's not a particular tool, but it is just all the online groups and stuff like Rachel's List. I couldn't have survived my last stint of freelancing without all these amazing, you know, just the community and the help and all of that, and this podcast, you know, it's so useful. The amount of help that is out there now is just incredible. So obviously people are already listening to this, but you know, all of those things are just so wonderful and so useful and so genuinely valuable, both literally financially in terms of like overflow work and leads, you know, contacts, information and stuff, but also just psychologically, you know, just to feel that you're not alone.
I think so. We were talking about that off air, weren't we, about how, well, when I started freelancing, I felt like I was in just a handful of freelancers because everyone was in-house. And now it's so different. It's just there are just communities for any type of writer, really. And like you say, I'm always surprised actually when we have a writer on the podcast or we meet a writer and they don't know about these communities, or they're just kind of operating in this vacuum and
feeling isolated.
I think how can you it just seems nuts to me that you're not in those water cooler type places, you know. because it can be fun.
Yeah, and there's so much training out there. Like, one thing, it's not a tech tool at all, but Creative Plus Business is a big creative business. Oh my gosh, they're so good. And I actually got onto them through the New South Wales, there was a small business thing where they kind of gave you 4 hours free of training, basically business training, and that happened to be through Creative Plus Business for me. And then I used their sort of tutoring, mentoring on an ongoing basis, and that's so good and so useful. And again, that's something that I had never really heard of. A friend told me about it, thank goodness.
Super they're useful. Great.
So good.
Amazing.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for everything. Do you think there's anything else that's important for anyone pitching to magazines?
Oh, just that I'm sorry. It is haunting me if I don't reply, and I'm sorry, and I'm grateful for you. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll take that.
Where can people find you, Hannah, if they do want to reach out? Is LinkedIn the best place?
Yeah, LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I have a website that I never update. hannahjameswords.com. Never update it, but that's okay. It's meant to be static. But yeah, so Instagram, and then the R Media address, which is just is the formulaic address. But yes, I'm online and I'm out there as most of us are. So say hello.
Okay, we'll pop all that into the show notes, won't we?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And thank you so much, Hannah, for being our guest this week. It's lovely to see you on the Zoom and not just by the end of email. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. That brings us to the end of the show this week. But thanks to everyone who's listening and sharing us on social media. And thank you again to our sponsors, Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software made just for Australian freelancers and sole traders. You can find them at rounded.com.au. And we will see you next week, won't we?
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye.